Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My best friend and her husband, along with their 5 kids, have been renting this old 4-bedroom house in the expensive part of the city for years. It wasn't much to look at, run-down kitchens, stinky drains, you name it. But it was all they could afford at $400 a week. The owner, the sweet old lady, took a real shine to my friend's family. She was loaded, but she had a heart of gold. She froze the rent for 5 whole years and even promised to let them buy the place once they saved up enough for a bank loan. It was like a dream come true for them. For 5 long years, they pinched every penny, dreaming of the big day they'd own their own home. Finally, they told the old lady they were ready. But life can be cruel sometimes. 2 days later, she passed away before anything could be put in writing. That's when the vultures swooped in. The old lady's 4 kids. Each one of them was swimming in money, inheriting a massive property portfolio. At first, they seemed decent enough. They told my friends, "Don't worry, we'll honor our mother's wishes. The sale will go through once probate is settled." My friends were over the moon. They started making changes to the place, stripping wallpaper, painting, and the works. When probate finally settled, the rich kids gave them the green light to apply for the loan. But then came the sucker punch. The bank refused the loan. Why? Because those greedy jerks had jacked up the price by $80,000. Was that saying a word? And it got worse. "Sorry, but we're putting the house on the open market. There'll be an open house in 7 days. My friends were crushed. With the market being what it was, the place would sell in a heartbeat. They might be able to scrounge up the extra cash, but not in a week. And with property prices and rents skyrocketing while theirs had been frozen, they were looking at homelessness if they couldn't buy this place. I was furious. These trust fund brats were some of the richest people in the city, and they were screwing over a struggling family for what amounted to pocket change for them. It was obvious they planned this all along. While my friends scrambled to find the money, I started plotting. I did some research on what helps sell a house and decided to do the exact opposite. We needed to make this place as unappealing as possible without making my friends look like bad tenants. First up, we tackled the space. We moved all the furniture away from the walls, borrowed extra pieces and knickknacks, and plastered the walls with motorcycle memorabilia. The place felt crammed and cluttered in no time. Next, we worked on a smell. My friend boiled the head of cabbage on the stove. Let me tell you, that stench could wake the dead. We sprayed ammonia around the doors to make it smell like every cat in the neighborhood had marked their territory. And for the piece de resistance, we poured 24 rotten eggs down the drain. The sewer gas smell was enough to make your eyes water. We didn't stop there. With the neighbor's permission, we dumped a moldy old couch in the front yard across the street. Then I started calling in favors. Anyone with a loud beat-up car was asked to cruise by during the open house. The street was busier than rush hour in Manhattan. For the final touch, I called in the big guns. My rugby club mates. These guys are built like tanks and look as tough as nails. The next door neighbors set up a barbecue in their front yard, and we offered free food and cheap beer. Soon we had a small army of large, intimidating men in rough gear arriving on motorcycles. When the open house day arrived, it was a sight to behold. People would pull up, take one look at the scene, and drive off without even getting out of their cars. One lady sat in her car for 10 minutes, watching the party next door before leaving. Only one guy was brave enough to stick around for more than a few minutes. This guy actually had the guts to chat with one of our party goers as he was leaving. I overheard their conversation. "So, are you guys often here?" "Oh yeah, mate. Every couple of weeks or so. We have an after-party morning. The main shindig was 3 doors up last night. It was wild." "I see. And what about the neighborhood? Any issues?" "Well, there is a drain problem. Always getting blocked by tree roots and stinking up the place. But you get used to it, you know." The potential buyer left without making an offer, looking a bit green around the gills. In the end, my friends were the only ones to make an offer. They still had to pay more than they'd originally planned, but not nearly as much as those greedy vultures wanted. They signed the papers and paid the deposit that very day. The cherry on top, that brave potential buyer who stuck around, he ended up putting in an offer $30,000 higher than my friends. But thanks to our area's strict anti-gazumbing laws, there was nothing the rich kids could do about it. They were legally bound to sell it to my friends at the agreed price. I would have paid good money to see the looks on their faces when they found out. The aftermath was pretty satisfying too. My friends moved in properly and we had a real housewarming party. No fake bikers or rotten eggs this time. As we sat around their new living room, my friend raised a toast. To good friends and karmic justice. We couldn't have done this without you. Her husband adds, yeah, remind me never get on your bad side. You're scary when you're plotting revenge. We all laughed, but I could see the relief and happiness in their eyes. It had been a long, stressful journey, but they finally had a home to call their own. As for the rich kids, word on the street was that they were pretty sour about the whole thing. Apparently, they tried to contest the sale, claiming we'd sabotaged the open house. But without any proof, and with the sale already finalized, they didn't have a leg to stand on. Their lawyer, who had more sense than a lot of them put together, apparently told them, look, you've already made a tidy profit. Cut your losses and move on. You don't want this getting out to the press. In the end, they slunk away with their tails between their legs. I heard that they had a falling out over the whole debacle, each blaming the others for not pushing for an even higher price or for not being sneaky enough. As for us, life went on. My friend's kids finally had a stable home and the neighborhood slowly but surely accepted them. The drain issue turned out it was an easy fix once they owned the place and could call in a proper plumber. Every now and then, when we're sitting in their backyard enjoying a cold one, someone will bring up the great house hustle, as we've come to call it. We'll laugh about the rotten eggs, the fake bikers, and the looks on people's faces during that open house. It's become something of a legend in our circle of friends. My life was pretty normal up until a few months ago. I'm a single dad trying my best to raise my 4-year-old daughter, Leah. Her mom left us when Leah was just a baby, so it's been just the two of us ever since. My job can be demanding, long hours, tight deadlines, you know the drill. It was tough juggling work and taking care of Leah, but we managed. That is until my company landed a big contract that required me to put in even more hours. And that's when I decided to enroll Leah in a daycare center. It seemed like the perfect solution. The place had great reviews, and the staff seemed friendly. I thought I'd found the ideal place for Leah to spend her days while I was at work. For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. Leah would come home happy, talking about the friends she'd made and the games they played. But then I started noticing changes. She became quieter, less enthusiastic about going to daycare. When I asked her what was wrong, she'd just shrug and say she was tired. I didn't think much of it at first. Kids go through phases, right? But then I noticed she wasn't eating as much at home. When I asked her about it, she said she was always full from daycare. That should have been my first red flag. And I was so caught up with work that I didn't pay enough attention. It wasn't until one evening when I was giving Leah a bath that I noticed something odd. Her little hands were red and chapped, almost raw looking. When I asked her about it, what she told me made my blood run cold. Leah, sweetie, what happened to your hands? Miss Karen makes me clean the potties when I don't finish my food. What? When does this happen? Every day after lunch. She gives me lots of food, and when I can't eat it all, she makes me clean. I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My little girl had been forced to clean bathrooms as punishment for not finishing her meals, and this had been going on for weeks. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove Leah to daycare as usual. But this time, I didn't leave. I waited in my car watching. After about an hour, I saw a group of kids being led to the playground, but Leah wasn't with them. I stormed into the daycare demanding to see my daughter. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I pushed past her. That's when I heard it. Leah's voice coming from the bathroom. Please, Miss Karen, I don't want to clean anymore. My hands hurt. Well, you should have thought about that before you wasted food. Now keep scrubbing. I burst into the bathroom, and the scene before me made my vision go red. There was my little girl on her knees, scrubbing the floor with a brush that was almost as big as she was. And standing over her was a woman I recognized as one of the daycare employees, the one Leah called Miss Karen. What the hell do you think you're doing? Excuse me, sir. You can't be in here. This is a private area. I'll go wherever my daughter is. Leah, come here, sweetie. Leah ran to me crying and I scooped her up in my arms. Her hands were wet and smelled of cleaning chemicals. Now, there is no need to make a scene. We were just teaching Leah about responsibility and not wasting food. By forcing a 4-year-old to clean bathrooms? Are you insane? It's a standard disciplinary measure. All the children who don't finish their meals help with chores. There is nothing standard about this. It's abuse, plain and simple. I turned to leave, but Karen tried to block the door. You can't just take her. There are procedures. Move, or I'll move you myself. She must have seen something in my eyes because she stepped aside. I carried Leah out of there, ignoring the stares from other staff members and children. As soon as we were in the car, I called the police. The next few weeks were madness. There was an investigation, and it turned out Leah wasn't the only child who'd been subjected to this punishment. Several other parents came forward with similar stories. I hired a lawyer and filed a civil suit against the daycare. The evidence was overwhelming. Not only were they forcing children to clean bathrooms, but they were also deliberately overfeeding them to create an excuse for punishment. It was sickening. The trial was tough. Karen and the daycare owners tried to paint it as a misunderstanding, claiming they were just teaching kids valuable life skills, but the testimonies from the children, including Leah, were damning. Miss Karen always gave me too much food. When I said I was full, she said I had to clean if I didn't finish. I didn't want to clean, but she made me. The jury was visibly moved by Leah's testimony. I could see the anger and disgust on their faces as they listened to her and the other children describe what they'd been through. In the end, Karen was found guilty of child abuse and sentenced to prison. The daycare was shut down and the owners were held liable for allowing this abuse to happen under their watch. The civil suit was also successful. The court awarded us a substantial settlement, enough to cover Leah's therapy and then some. But more importantly, it sent a message that this kind of behavior wouldn't be tolerated. After the trial, I decided to make some changes in my life. I switched to a job that allowed me to work from home more often, so I could be there for Leah. We used some of the settlement money to set up a playroom in our house, filled with all the toys and games Leah could want. It's been a few months since the trial and Leah is slowly starting to heal. She still has nightmares sometimes, but they are becoming less frequent. We're in therapy together, learning how to process what happened and move forward. As for Karen and the daycare owners, last I heard, they were trying to appeal the verdict, but with the mountain of evidence against them, I am not worried. They'll face what they committed head on. So yeah, that's our story. It's not the kind of thing you ever expect to happen to you, but when it does, you find strengths you never knew you had. And you learn that sometimes being a parent means being a fighter too. I'm a 24-year-old guy just trying to make my way in life. I work for a small startup and I've been living in my own apartment for about a year now. It's not much, but it's mine. And I've always been proud of my independence. A few weeks ago, I met this girl at a local coffee shop. She was cute, funny, and we hit it off right away. We exchanged numbers and started texting. After a week of chatting, we decided to go on our first date. It was simple, just dinner and a movie. But we had a great time. She told me she was 22 and still living with her mom while finishing up college. I didn't think much of it at the time. Our second date was tonight. I invited her over to my place for a home-cooked meal and some Netflix. I am no chef, but I managed to whip up a decent pasta dish. And we settled in for a movie marathon. We talked, laughed, and just enjoyed each other's company. Before we knew it, it was past midnight. She said she'd text her mom to let her know she'd be home late. As the night went on, we both started getting sleepy. Neither of us planned on staying over, but we ended up dozing off on my bed. It was innocent, really. We were both fully clothed, just cuddling and talking until sleep took over. The next thing I knew, I was jolted awake by a loud bang. My bedroom door flew open, and suddenly there were 3 flashlights blinding me. A gruff voice shouted, "Los Angeles Police Department." I stumbled out of my bed, my heart racing. I was so confused and disoriented that I almost forgot my date was still there. The officers asked for my name and ID, which I provided, still trying to piece together what was happening. "Is there a young woman in this room with you?" Yes. We fell asleep watching movies. What's going on? Her mother is downstairs. She's been trying to reach her daughter and got worried when she didn't answer. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her mom called the police because she didn't answer her phone? This had to be a joke, right? I turned to my date, who was now sitting up in bed, looking just as shocked and embarrassed as I felt. I am so sorry about this. I had no idea. She just shook her head, looking mortified. The officers escorted us downstairs, where she found 3 more police officers and a woman who I assumed was my date's mother. She looked furious. Oh, thank God. I thought something terrible had happened to you. Mom, I'm fine. We just fell asleep watching movies. I'm so sorry for not answering my phone. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I thought you'd been kidnapped or worse. Ma'am, I am really sorry for the misunderstanding. We had no intention of. You! How dare you keep my daughter here without my permission? I was taken aback by her anger. I tried to explain, but she wasn't having any of it. We didn't plan this. It just happened. We're both adults and. Adults? She's my baby. She lives under my roof and she follows my rules. At this point, one of the officers stepped in. Ma'am, we've confirmed that your daughter is safe and that there was no foul play. I think it's best if you take her home now. The mother grabbed my date's arm and started pulling her towards the door. My date looked back at me apologetically but didn't say anything. I stood there surrounded by police officers, feeling completely bewildered. As they were leaving, I heard the mother say, "You're grounded for a month, young lady, and don't think you'll ever see this boy again." After they left, the officers started to file out too. I was still in shock, trying to process what had just happened. Officers, can I ask, was this legal? To burst into my apartment like this? One of the officers turned to me with a slightly sympathetic look. We received a report of a missing person and we had to investigate. Your date's mother was very insistent. But 6 officers? For a 22-year-old who didn't answer her phone? The officer shrugged. Sometimes these situations can escalate quickly. We're just doing our job. And with that, they left, leaving me alone in my apartment, wondering if I had just lived through some bizarre dream. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I tried texting my date but got no response. I figured her mom had probably taken her phone away. I felt terrible for her, being treated like a child at 22. A week passed, and I hadn't heard anything. Then after the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my date. "Hey, it's me. I'm so sorry about what happened. My mom finally gave me my phone back. Are you okay? That whole situation was crazy." "I'm fine, just embarrassed. My mom's always been overprotective, but this was a new level." We talked for a while and she explained that her mom had some serious control issues. She'd been planning to move out soon anyway, but this incident had made her decision final. A month later, I got another call from her and she sounded excited. "Guess what? I found an apartment. I'm moving out next week." "That's great, congratulations." "There is more. Remember how my mom made such a big scene and got the police involved? Well, I talked to a lawyer friend and it turns out what she did wasn't exactly illegal." "Really?" "Yeah, the police shouldn't have entered your apartment without a warrant or probable cause. My lawyer friend says we might have a case for a civil rights violation." I was surprised but intrigued. We decided to meet up and discuss it further. Over coffee, she told me that she'd been doing some research and found out that her mom had a history of making false police reports when she didn't get her way. We decided to file a formal complaint against both her mother and the police department. It wasn't about money, we just wanted to make sure this kind of thing didn't happen to anyone else. To our surprise, the complaint gained traction. The police department launched an internal investigation, and it turned out that one of the officers involved had a history of misconduct. As for her mom, she was fined and ordered to attend counseling for her controlling behavior. Through all of this, my date and I grew closer. We started officially dating, and I helped her move into her new apartment. It felt good to see her finally free from her mom's control.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.